Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. Jim Miller versus Jared Gordon. I'm going to get into everything here, including the Bobby Green no contest. But let me just give you a little bit of information at the top. Jim Miller's my favorite fighter. My favorite fighter, him and Darren Elkins. And I will always be biased in their favor. Doesn't mean I'm picking him to win, but absolutely I'm going to be looking for a way to bet on him. Now, Jared Gordon, he should win, without him being compromised from the Bobby Green fight, I would be much more certain of him winning this fight. I think Jared Gordon is number one path to victory, overwhelming path to victory is decision. If he wins, it's more than likely a decision. I don't think he's got the submission prowess to take Jim Miller out at any point unless Jim is knocked half dead. And I do think he's got the hands. Really good hands, really good Muay Thai. I do think he could hurt Jim Miller, but Jim's only been knocked out twice. Knocked out by Dan Hooker and Donald Cerrone. Big, long, tall fucking lightweights. Or, featherweights or middleweights or whatever Dan Hooker is. But Jim Miller, he's 39 years old. Yes, he's only getting older. But he still hasn't shown to have a weaker chin as he's gotten older. He's looked pretty damn healthy. And in fact, his power, I can't say he's gotten more power, but his striking's really come together. He got two solid second-round victories last year, knocking out Nicholas Mota and whoever the fuck else. Who the fuck else did he knock out? Eric Gonzalez. That's right. Anyway. Should have written that shit down, but I didn't. But Jim Miller's a guy that has never really thrived in the later rounds, in my opinion. Sure, he's won some throughout the years, gotten a third-round finish over Kamal Shalarus way back when. But in general, the last few years, he's done his best work in round one. Of course, the majority of his finishes come in round one. But aside from his last three, ironically, which all come in round two, the two knockout wins and then the submission over Donald Cerrone. But in general, he's done his best work in round one, and then he's fallen off in rounds 2 and 3. That's how he lost his last few fights. Scott Holtzman, Vince Pichel, Joe Selecki, Alexander Hernandez. They pretty much weathered the Jim Miller storm, kind of tamed him, and then won with being, the better physical fighters down the stretch. They were able to bully him and secure top position. Jim's wrestling fell off a little bit, and he was still healthy and functional enough defensively to stay in the fight, even with some really good fighters on top of him like Joe Selecki, but he wasn't able to mount much of an offensive rally. Aside from in the Hernandez fight, he had a beautiful rear naked choke in round 3, almost took that fight, in my opinion, and made it a razor-thin fight. Really could have gone either way, even though Hernandez, by and large, won that fight. And look, that the way he's fallen off in rounds 2 and 3 and whatever, Jared Gordon had that exact fight, but in a victory over Joe Selecki, one of the guys that beat Jim Miller that way. He pretty much used that same blueprint to beat Joe Selecki, tamed the grappler, and then secured top position and won down the stretch. There was a little more scrambling in that fight. Joe Selecki's a very competent grappler, but Jared Gordon should, if the fight went like that, I'd expect Jared Gordon to be the guy on top. I don't think you can use MMA math when it comes to fights. Fighter A beat Fighter B, so Fighter B beat Fighter C, and now A is going to kill C. No, but I think when it comes to who got top position, who secured top position and won the wrestling physicality battle down the stretch, I do think that type of math will plug in, where Jared Gordon should out-scramble and out-wrestle Jim Miller in rounds 2 and 3 if they find themselves there. So Jared Gordon by decision, I see that as a very reasonable prediction. And, a gun to my head, I guess it would be my prediction. Jared Gordon by decision. I think if Jared Gordon was to win, it's more than likely going to be by decision. But Jim Miller is not out of the realm of winning a decision, of course. All he needs is some big moments, just like he had against Hernandez there. And he puts himself in the realm of winning a decision. But also, just as fighter health goes, Jim Miller's the healthier fighter. If he was a little more dangerous, I'd be sure he'd get Jared Gordon out of there. But Jim, despite having the 2 knockout wins somewhat recently, he's never been Mr. Knockout Power. He just hasn't. He's got really good striking, great hands, kicks, knees, and elbows. He can make anything work for him, and that's what makes him a good striker. Also, his accuracy, which is really what won him those two fights. But as far as power, he doesn't have that power where I'd say, oh, Jared Gordon's compromised, and when Jim touches his chin, he's going out. Still, if Jared Gordon is that compromised, then Jim could get it done. Gordon, he's got 6 losses, 4 by knockout. 1 is by doctor stoppage. The other 3 are by legit knockout. And then he he got knocked out against Bobby Green. He didn't lose that fight. He did not lose that fight, but he was knocked unconscious. Doesn't matter how the fuck it happened. He went unconscious, and that was in April, like mid-April. I don't even know how the fucking fight was booked or whatever, how the athletic commission suspensions work, but I saw him get knocked dead there, even if it was due to a headbutt. And now he's fighting 45 days later or whatever. So he's trying to get it back. I know that left a sour taste in his mouth, but it could work against him here. Even though Jim Miller's not Mr. Power Puncher, he's a very accurate guy, and I'm sure he knows the biggest weakness in Jared Gordon right now is his chin. The 3 knockout losses come to Charles Oliveira, Joaquim Silva, Carlos Diego Ferreira, all jiu-jitsu guys. But still, Jared Gordon, yeah, he's got a weak chin. He's got a weak chin for a lightweight. And I do think Jim Miller could put him away via finish. Even if Jim hurt him, I'd say the chances of him getting a submission are still even greater than getting the knockout. It would have to be a clean 1 punch, knock him dead. But if Jim knocks him silly, his chances of getting a submission are still greater than the knockout because Jim always goes for a submission. He's a neck hunter, and for good reason. He's got 19 submission victories, probably a dozen of them in the UFC. Probably half a dozen of them by guillotine or whatever, rear naked. And Jim, he's got plenty of arm bars as well. But Jim Miller is a very dynamic finisher. And that's what I expect from him if he gets Jared Gordon hurt, to pounce on a neck. So the prediction is Jared Gordon wins by decision. I am betting on that at plus 135, but it's only to hedge my Jim Miller bet, which is the money line plus 140 and finish plus 200. Threw a sprinkle on that, but really I think Jim Miller, he's very much in this fight, and Jared Gordon's too compromised for me to not bet against him. So that's how I see the fight. I will go Jordan by decision, but I will bet on Jim Miller and then hedge it with Gordon by decision because I really want Jim Miller to win and I want to make fucking money off of it. And favorite fighter shit aside, I just think Jared Gordon's got a lot going against him here. So kind of playing the odds. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.